finished a really cool podcast, and we had a surprise guest because I was being questioned as to why we had an extra chair, but a fireman did show up to hang out and talk with us, Daniel Weevidow.
Yeah, he talked a lot. It was amazing, all the things that he said in the last minute.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was good. We talked about Fallow Month, and we talked about your sabbatical and writing books.
It was a very restful podcast. So.
Yeah, if you could just lay back. Maybe I'll just put some watery kind of sounds in the background. Maybe some nice
white noise,
new age music in the back.
Good. Yeah. That's perfect.
Good. Okay.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Ben. A long time since I've seen you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I came to your church.
You did.
Did you even notice that?
I did, halfway through my sermon.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty disconcerting.
Oh, yeah? Why was that? I thought that would have been better. Then you wouldn't have to interact with me before.
No, that wasn't the big deal. I was just...
You're like, oh, great. Other pastor guy. Did you see me get hit by the door?
No.
To your sanctuary?
No.
Yeah. We need to talk about the safety around here. But we can do that in a moment. 'Cause this is Faith Over Breakfast,
and you're Andy.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Eric.
And you're Eric. And I'm from Mission Church, and you're from the village where safety matters.
Well, we have a fireman, and he
was sitting right over there.
He was sitting right next to you, I think so.
That would have been okay.
Yeah.
When the kids came through the door at the end, the door kind of smacked me. And fortunately, my foot was out a little, so it didn't smack me in the side of the face. So
good.
It worked out.
All right. Well, that's why we're in favor of appendages at the villages. Yeah.
Is that
feet? Hands. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Use them.
Huh?
Use them.
Use them. Okay. Well, we're pastors in Tucson. If you haven't tuned in before, and we're sitting in Eric's church, which is cool and full of art. And there's an extra chair here. Yeah. Because either somebody else is going to show up, or Eric is doing some kind of Christmas ritual where he leaves a chair out for baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus. Yes.
Yeah. Is that what this is?
Yeah. I end up, oddly enough, we have all these rooms, and I often end up doing counseling right here in the middle of the sanctuary.
This is by far, it's the living room, man.
Yeah.
It's comfortable.
So.
Eric's church, by the way, if you haven't been here, which I know 99% of our listeners go here. Well, no.
I think, well, here you go. Interesting story about one of our listeners. This is a really interesting story. So the guy who married me and my wife.
Wait, there's another one of you?
Yeah. Okay. The guy who performed our wedding.
I see.
Is named Mark Bryans. And he was my mentor for 3 years and kind of taught me, he taught me a lot and spent a lot of time with me. And so his oldest son, Mark, is now a priest in the Anglican Church in Hawaii. And he listens to us regularly, and I got a little messenger from him, or what do you call those things on Facebook? You know, I'm old.
Messenger pigeon? Or something.
Yeah, I sent a messenger pigeon over, and was saying, hey, we should talk. I've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast. It's really good, and I'm about to go plant a church, and I'd love to pick your brain. And I'm like, I haven't texted him back yet, but I was hoping to do that today and set up a time. So one of our listeners finds it helpful, and also I remember when he was little.
Are they still listening to us in Japan?
I haven't. It says what they are, but I haven't actually talked to the people. But now at least we can say when we're like, yes, we have a listener in Honolulu. Yeah. Hawaii, we actually do. We've talked to at least one of them.
We've never said that before, but now we can. Yeah. Oh, this is getting big. This is kind of.
We are
off the rails.
Going across the water now.
Well, I mean, since that's the case, I guess we might as well talk about something of some kind of importance
for someone to listen to.
So it's I've been on a sabbatical for a few weeks, and so I came to your church a couple weeks ago, and you were teaching about being fallow. You guys take December to oh, I thought it was to rest, but you were like, you're going to be distressed and all this stuff. So I thought, oh, this is how wonderful. But the truth be told, being on sabbatical, there was some of that. For me too, I was actually experiencing some of that. So, yeah. So you guys, let's talk about this. While everybody is in the hustle and bustle, we've just had Black Friday and Small Business Saturday, and everybody's gearing up to do crazy things. You guys are not.
Right.
Or at least as a church.
As a church, we're trying to encourage people to slow down.
Yeah. So you don't do a Christmas play. There are no live animals.
No Christmas play. The only thing we do for Christmas is actually reduce one service and to just an evening service, and we have a candlelight service.
Yeah.
On the Sunday before Christmas.
Which usually means that's even like you probably don't preach,
right? I read, or someone reads the story of Jesus' birth in some hopefully dramatic form, and we sing about 8 Christmas carols and eat cookies, and then we go. People go out to eat. It's the only time, or they just go home.
Don't actually have dinner.
No.
Do you real candles or fake candles?
Well, real candles.
Whoa.
It's really hot in here.
Yeah, it's hot, and you got all this upholstery.
Oh yeah,
I didn't mention this. Your church is, we've got old and new couches and wicker furniture. And
yes.
This is if any church was going to burn down on Candlelight Sunday, it's you.
I know, it's really scary. That's why we have a fireman.
Yeah. So you recruited him, and now you're fine.
Right, and I know where both fire extinguishers are, and they're very accessible. So at least that's.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah.
And the insurance policy is paid up. Yeah, I mean, we did go to like electric candles for the rest of the year because of all the children and how dangerous it's not.
But fake candles for a candlelight service is
not gonna work. You light your little candle and hold it. And we have those little.
Might as well just turn your phone screen on and hold it in the air, right?
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting.
There's a Zippo app, I think.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, so that you could do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've strayed from the point.
Yeah.
So you're, so tell me about this, why you decided to do that.
Why? Well, part of it is because I feel like we feel like Christmas, you lose the whole point. I mean, Christmas is not about excessive celebration of materialism. I mean, it's about the birth of Jesus, and Rob was talking about this at the first sermon on Advent, that it's not even about the birth of Jesus, because Jesus was born. He already did it. We're remembering that he became a man, and the miraculous, kind of insane way that happened. I mean, a 13, 14-year-old girl has an angel tell her that the God of all the universe, every possible thing that you can imagine, is going to make you with child, however that part worked.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So we're celebrating that, but he did that. What we're actually trying to slow down and look forward to is the actual second coming of Christ. Like, remembering the birth of Jesus is
like, if that insane thing happened, then the other one could happen.
Right. So that's
and will happen.
And I think, like, Jesus, he's this crazy revolutionary who changed everything. Like, even if, let's just say, for, I don't know, whatever, like, hypothetically, he isn't God. The man himself, in 30-some years, changed the way all of us live.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
There isn't anybody, even remote tribes out in the middle of nowhere, at some level have been impacted by a guy who lived for 33 years.
Yeah.
In a little place in the Middle East. Just that alone is a remarkable thing to kind of begin to process, because he made some crazy, crazy claims. So anyway, like, slowing down to, like, think that through and to try to nurture an anticipation of his return and what that means for our lives. And I think part of that can be in giving very thoughtful gifts and enjoying your family and really taking stock of what you have, because it's life is fleeting. It's really not. If you're so busy, it just flies by, and I'm not old, but I'm 46, and I'm like, wow, 46 years went real fast.
Yeah, I
Very
still
fast.
can't believe I'm an adult sometimes. Wait. Oh yeah, I don't have to go to school today.
Right.
What's
Right.
going on?
Yeah. So.
And people look. Do you remember what you used to think of 46-year-olds?
Oh, I thought they were really old.
Really?
I thought like 25-year-olds were cool, but kind of pushing it.
Yeah, I thought 18-year-olds were pretty old.
Yeah.
I looked at them and like, wow, they're
yes,
adults.
They're adults.
I remember having an early 20-something boss, and I was just like, he gets it.
No, he doesn't.
No, he didn't. Wow, what in the world? Yeah, because 23-year-old me was a piece of work. 35-year-old me is a piece of work. How old am I? Am I 35 or 36?
I don't know. When were you born?
I think I'm 36. Shoot.
So you're 10 years younger than me, huh? When's your birthday?
82.
Yeah, and I'm 72, so.
Yeah.
And you're what month?
September.
Okay.
Wow. 10 years.
10 years.
Wow.
So, but part of what we talked about in that sermon on fallow was just that when you begin to stop, part of it is kind of digging up the things that have kind of become numb in your life, learning to be present instead of joining all of the crazy.
So how does that go for you and your people? Like, does it tend to occur?
I think so. I mean, I know people really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it relieves some of the pressure.
Yeah.
And so then if they want to go to something fun at a church, like a big, Christmas thing, then they can go do that, and it's not their thing.
Yeah.
They can just enjoy it. So there's some
these other suckers who are killing themselves.
they're killing themselves. Yeah. So I think there's some of that. I think for me, what it does is professionally, it becomes sort of what every other professional has, which is some kind of continuing education. I really shift gears and probably read 5 or 6 books, spend a lot of time studying and in quiet with God. I do a lot more projects around the house.
Yeah.
So it becomes...
So you do things, just other things.
Right, but things that are slow and the rhythms are changed, and I'm able to reflect more. A more reflective kind of experience instead of a tyranny of the urgent.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, but you have been on sabbatical for 3 weeks?
Yeah, so I got 8 weeks for the year, but with my dad's death early in the year, like January, I took 2 weeks off because I just needed... We had just moved we had just purchased the new church building.
Right.
And we were going to work on it. But the purchase was still in the details were getting worked out.
Right.
And I knew a lot of work was coming. And so I took 2 weeks of my sabbatical, which I'm really grateful that the church was flexible with that because it was a weird year. And so normally I would have taken 8 weeks and just straight, I guess. And then in May I took 3 weeks. And then I took the other 3 weeks. I just got back yesterday. So it was a staggered sabbatical, which, because of the year, was perfect. Like, as I got to think through stuff about my dad and write in the spring, in the early summer, which was, I'd had a little time. I got the 2 weeks to just, absorb it, I guess. And then, for the 1-year anniversary of his death, which I didn't necessarily plan that, but that was during this last 3 weeks. So a year later,
it's been a year.
It's been a year. It's been over a year. Yeah. So isn't that? It doesn't seem like it, right?
It doesn't, because a year ago, when your dad passed away, I had poured boiling water on my foot.
Yes. Right.
That doesn't feel like a year ago. Wow.
That was a year ago.
Because I look down at the scar and I think, that hasn't been that long.
Happened pretty recently.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
The year blew by.
It did.
So, it was, and it was a very different experience each time. That 2 weeks was just just hard, just a mess. Good, but healthy, I guess, but a mess. And then the spring, there was a lot of emotion and kind of really sitting down and experiencing it. And this time around, the feelings were there, but it had been a year. But it was good to experience all that. And this time, my writing project was more fun.
Okay.
Because the grief was there, but it wasn't dominant. And I was able to kind of enjoy the writing project. So that was good. I mean, there's other things about slowing down though. Like I got mad about some stuff, like just annoyed. I don't love that, but that was there, right? And I just hadn't faced it and addressed it. And Chris DeHaan from the Vineyard here in Tucson talks about when you do something like in silence. He does a lot of silent retreats that like dark thoughts can come, and there was a little bit of that, like some things was like, ugh, I don't like that I am this way,
Right.
But I hadn't slowed down enough for that to bother me.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, there is. It's an odd experience to stop.
Yeah. And stop is very different than go on vacation. That's not a stop.
No.
Right? Like that's almost more go in a different way.
Unless you're like going to take an extended 3-month vacation or something, like an actual sabbatical style.
Yeah. Where
Go
it was
away.
good I wasn't here.
Yeah.
I came back a couple times, and that was good. I'm glad I did that because I got to see my wife and daughter. But it also kind of, I had to like get back in the rhythm again every time, which made it was a little difficult.
Yeah.
But I don't regret that. I think it was for the best.
Yeah. And I took a 3-month sabbatical, I didn't do any. I mean, I would go off on excursions for a day alone, but I ended up. It was almost as if my whole family took a sabbatical.
Yeah.
That was.
And probably depending on your situation. I mean, I think in this case it was. I don't think I could have done this project.
No,
here.
That would have been so distracting.
Yeah, I don't think I could have done it.
Yeah, I was trying to imagine being away and like that's like you're not hearing your wife's voice, you're not hearing your daughter's voice, you're kind of alone with your own voice.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I took a lot of long walks all by myself, stuff which I like to do, but the ones I get here are 45 minutes.
Right.
There it was like 3 hours, and now I'm going to sit down alone and write for 4 hours.
Wow.
And then tomorrow, similar.
Right.
Yeah, it's good. Different, but very good.
So does your church also give you vacation on top of the sabbatical time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're different.
You weren't eating into vacation.
I didn't lose my vacation.
That's good.
Yeah. So, and I'm really grateful. We took some time to kind of study what other churches did, or at least read some articles and considered it, and tried to adopt what seemed like a wise practice. The wise practice would normally be to do your whole sabbatical at once and really step away for a longer period. But, like I said, this was a weird year.
So you guys do sabbatical every year?
So basically the way we decided to do it was that you get 2 weeks a year, and you can decide, you could bank those up to 4 years. So if you prefer, which Nick would like to take 2 weeks a year, I would like to take a long sabbatical every 4 and have my, vacation every year. But like sabbatical, I'd like it to be a couple months every 4 years.
Wow.
Which seems like kind of more the norm, something like that. 4 to 6 years, you get a long break. And that's especially for people who do sabbatical projects or like press into some kind of spiritual quest or or they dig into a topic that they're wrestling with in their life or that their church is wrestling with.
Sure.
Those folks tend to take the 8 to 10 weeks or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like a vacation. It's different. But it still is a very profound change of pace. So how do you guys do that?
Well, I feel like, I mean, for me, I'm the only full-time paid employee.
Yeah.
But the way that I take all of June off every year. So I'm not here in June at all.
Yeah.
And then I take the last 2 weeks of December off.
Yeah.
So that's about 6 weeks, which is about what the professional world gets as long as I've been doing this. It's like,
is that like vacation or is that different?
It's whatever I want.
Yeah. But
the thing is, as long as it doesn't interfere, like Rod takes all of August off, so we know that these 2 months are off. As long as it doesn't interfere with things, we're kind of okay with not putting a limit on the amount of vacation and sabbatical you need. It's more like, hey, I need a couple weeks off.
You're right. Because every year's a little different.
Right. Yeah. And some of it's just more like whatever is healthy for the individual. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing is that I think everybody is different, like the type of rest you need. Because I did the writing project and there were some questions as to whether that was going to be restful. And in my mind, I was like, well, what's the alternative? Like, go and just sit in a room for 6 weeks? Like, that's not restful. That's crazy. Like, I don't even know how to do that. And maybe I need to learn how to do that. But it would...
Right.
But I'm going to think, and then my thoughts are just going to go all over the map. Whereas if I pursue something that is different and helpful to my soul and hopefully to other people,
right,
then I can aim my thoughts in a way that I can't normally. And there's it's a work, but it's a different kind of work. And I'm really grateful I got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that you have this project.
Yeah, I think I needed the project, and I read some stuff that other folks similarly would a meaningful project for themselves and their community would be like the best way to do something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, people are listening from our churches. What good does this do them?
Well, I mean, I think it's good to be involved in your pastor's life.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to realize that, that it's a different kind of job. I mean, one of the women at our church last week came up to me and because she was talking to me about how the shift in our 2 services has worked and how I was handling things. And I was just telling her about how I have decided I take Mondays off now and Thursdays off. And I work basically 3, 12 to 14-hour days.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I work Sunday from early in the morning till usually about 8 at night. I work today and tomorrow, really long days, and Friday. But I have these 2,
Yeah.
And I tend to work about 50 hours a week. It's been hard for me not to work about at least 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
I kind of think if you're going to ask your elders who work full-time jobs to then work another 10 hours on top of that and meetings and all that, you can't just say, well, but it's all part of my 40-hour week job. That's not fair to them. And really, it's not. But anyway, she came up to me afterwards and was like, yeah, but she said, I think you should think about, how many hours you're working because other people work 40 hours a week, your job is not like theirs and that it's emotionally taxing.
That's true.
And so, sometimes you may work 1 hour and that's equivalent to somebody else's 3 or 4 hours. And
depending on the job, right?
Right. Depending on, right. I mean, if I was a counselor, but like even my dad who was a therapist, he never worked in office hours more than 30 hours a week because he couldn't, he just couldn't emotionally handle that many stories or keep track of them, even though you have notes and all that kind of stuff, because your brain's just emotionally fried. And sometimes, when you stand up in front of people, it can be emotionally exhausting. Like, for example, I preached the same sermon that you heard in the evening, in the morning, and in the morning, the audience was like, the community was like wide awake, and I could tell they were super engaged. I was definitely much more, you know, kind of connected in my sermon, and then by the time I hit the evening up there, I was feeling emotionally kind of already
and you talked to all these
exhausted.
people in the morning too, and
Yes,
lunch and...
yeah, and so it's an exhausting. So by the time I got up there, I was starting to my brain was having trouble making the connections anymore. And I was feeling tired, and I was looking at people, and they seemed, that Sunday was exceptionally like restless. And so I was just you have that like emotional, even just being in front of people, you're emotionally trying to wrestle through stuff. So
you think it's good for people to understand what that's like for their pastor?
I do think so.
It's weird because I can sometimes feel bad. It's I've got the bivocational thing going on, so that sort of offsets it for me. But say I had a week of doing mostly pastoral stuff, like I know it will be pretty wearisome, just the emotional load, or even just talking to a lot of people is, which I love to do. Actually, I thank goodness I'm extroverted. I enjoy it, but it's still, there's a certain level of like done at the end of the day, and then your family like wants to talk at the end of the day,
right?
And you're like, I've been doing this all day long,
right?
And like, how much more brain room do I have, to hear about your friends at school and what happened at work? And so it's interesting where I didn't feel that way when I did like landscaping.
Right.
Like I was looking forward to talking when I got home.
Right.
It's different. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's not as emotionally, it's physically being a landscaper, you're physically exhausted.
Right.
Which I don't often get.
No.
I get physically exhausted from the emotional.
There's a connection though.
Right. Yeah.
You do feel tired, though you haven't been, like, I mean, I've heard people say, or maybe even to me, like, so what does a pastor do? Like you just kind of sit and write one talk and give it, and then kind of go out to coffee with people. And you think, like, in the normal world, that sounds like oh, I go to coffee on my day off, right? With my friend, and that's great. And it's hard to explain how different it really is to go out to coffee with people whom you have responsibility for,
right?
Who are asking something from you,
sure,
which they should. That's fine, but it's different. It's very different.
It is. And you're in people's homes, and you're at people's most painful and most joyful moments, and if you're doing it well, you're trying to figure out how to navigate being a pastor and a friend.
Yeah.
And I think the more you feel that tension, I think the better you're doing your job, actually.
That's encouraging, because I feel that tension. Yeah. A lot.
Because I think, otherwise you become...
If you're just a professional listening ear.
Yeah, and you don't have any friends, and then they can't really consider you their friend, and I don't think that's healthy. No, I don't think that being a pastor should be considered a professional job. Yeah. Jesus didn't go and say, come follow me, and I will give you the ladder in which you climb up to perform the perfect shepherding job of,
Yeah, and meet your goals and get it done and build the organization, and then move on, and somebody else will take over for you.
Right. That's not... He said I would make fishers of men. That was pretty much...
Yeah.
Calling men to Jesus, calling women to Jesus it's partly a friendship thing. I mean, Jesus considered his disciples his friends.
Yeah, he did. Obviously, said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that very much in our community, like that these aren't, it's not just like, oh, I'm meeting with somebody from my church. Like, I do know you, and I love you, and I care about you. And that is part of the exhaustion, is having that level of relationship, or attempting to, with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is hard.
It is hard.
It's cool, really sweet, but it's hard. what so you're. Yeah, I don't know. I think about people and I'm like, well, so other folks in my church, like I'm going to go visit a guy today who is an engineer. He doesn't get a sabbatical.
Well, does he work for Raytheon or IBM? He does. He takes
probably,
all of December off.
he does not work for either of them, but he might get it. Yeah, I'm sure the amount of time off actually isn't so far from
I think you don't have to be there very long to you got about 14 weeks, so.
I don't know.
At least that's what the engineers of my church have.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I don't keep track.
but he doesn't just say, hey, I'm going to go off for 8 weeks and work on a book that could kind of deal with my job, but it's also,
yes,
for me.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. No, he doesn't get that.
No, it's different. And so it's like, why should people in ministry get that? And then how can what we're talking about here, because you encourage your whole church to lay fallow.
Yeah.
How can we? I don't know that we have done that at our church, and I feel like, yeah, how could we encourage that? How have you decided to encourage that for your people, not just yourself?
Well, I think two things. So the reason that we stop our groups, which would mean if you're in a group in December, you would end up having at least a minimum of 3 different evenings.
Yeah.
That are free.
That you're normally
doing
spending
something
with community that now you can do whatever you want.
Right, and so we kind of say, we'll use that as a trigger point to say, okay, I'm going to take this 2 hours, whatever, these 3 hours, and I'm going to sit alone with God. I'm going to go invite my neighbor who I have been wanting to sit and just get to know, but have been so busy, and have him over for coffee or go see if we could do something with them to just enjoy them.
Yeah.
Or, maybe my wife and kids are really, I can tell that they just need some special time.
Yeah.
So create these little spaces. Just start there. Even if you just do it 3 times in December where you stopped and really reflected, or stopped and given someone else some extra time that doesn't normally get your time.
Yeah.
To just sort of experience those things. So that's one thing we do, is just to try that. Start there.
And you taught about this, because the normal thing would be if you just didn't do your group, you would just go do something else. Like you would just kind of. So you're encouraging to make that time.
Yeah.
To use that time for something very specific.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. This is a cool new development in our podcast in which you walk away.
Well, I walk away and everybody can hear those safety doors shut that you talked about it.
The ones that almost killed me.
That almost killed you.
Yeah. So you specifically... Yeah, you specifically teach that. And I don't know that I know people in our small group leaders are welcome to take a month off or something like that. And that happens. But I don't know that we've ever said, kind of upfront, like, here's what to do with that time. Which you seem to be pretty specific.
Yeah. I think it's just part of one of our rhythms in our church.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the way that, like, we kind of call ourselves monastic, is that we have these things that we do, like every December it's fallow. Yeah. Everybody, even our little kids, could probably tell you a little bit about fallow.
Yeah. You had little coloring sheets for them.
They did, and then this week they all discussed it in their class, and so they have some sense at least of what the word means and why our church would do it.
Yeah.
And so it's become a regular discipline that people are like, oh, we're going to talk about fallow, and we're going to be asked to practice it. Now, if they practice it, it's not like I ever say, how is your fallow week doing or month? And there's not a lot of accountability in it. It's just something that we've encouraged.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you feel like most people at this point embrace it and do it? Or is it like, well, okay, that we do that, I don't necessarily. Or does it just depend?
I think people really do embrace it.
Yeah.
I think and more, they've used it to, I think more than anything, slow down and enjoy one another.
Yeah.
So do things that are just sort of, hey, let's have some people over and enjoy that. Or, hey, I went off on a walk and I just sat with God. So I hear little bits of that coming.
Yeah.
And also just like the permission from the church to say, hey, you don't need to do this. We don't need to have the play. You don't need to be in some church play. You don't need to do it. You don't have to be busy. You can actually slow down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. Do you decorate your house for Christmas?
Do we? Yeah, so our Christmas tree is already up because one of the girls just went to college, and so she came down, and she's not going to be back until like the 17th, and she wants to be part of the Christmas tree decorating, so we had to go for the first time in November, put up our tree. So, the older men of the house were sort of like a little grumpy about it, but
so you do. It's not like you don't really put work in to celebrate it. You do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get a Christmas tree, decorate it.
Yeah.
And then put a fire on and read lots of books and stare at the tree.
There you go. Yeah. Real tree or fake tree?
Never had a fake tree. Always a real tree.
Yeah.
22 years of regular
Yep.
participating in the
pagan ritual.
The German.
Sure smells nice. I like it. I think God made trees.
He did.
Like putting them in my house sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they smell nice. And they look cool with lights on them.
They do look cool. And, we have just ornaments from, my childhood and Keith and Julie's childhood and my wife's, and then when the kids were little. So the trees just looks like somebody threw a lot of ornaments. It's two families.
That's right.
On one tree.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Now, that might be the most interesting thing about you sharing your home with another family, right there.
Yeah.
The two families on one tree.
Yeah, it is. Wow. What do you do? What do you do for Christmas?
Yeah, kind of standard stuff. We get a real tree.
When does it go up?
There is it whenever it happens.
Okay, so you don't have like we do it 2 weeks before Christmas or
no. It's happened like the week of Christmas. It's happened 3-4 weeks before. It just depends.
Do you have a particular Christmas tree lot that you go to?
No.
No.
It's changed. Yeah, we went to the one that had the camel rides when the camel rides were there, and then that was over. So then, and then a couple years we've been like, I want to support the local tree guy, but just can't justify spending $100 this year, so let's just go to Home Depot.
Right.
But I kind of like supporting the smaller companies. I don't, so.
Have you ever cut your own tree?
Back in Oregon when I was a kid.
Okay, me too. I mean, that was the last time I cut one.
Yeah, we did that when I was a kid. Pretty sweet.
How do you do presents in your house? How does that work?
We buy them.
That's good.
Yeah.
So is it when your mom's gonna come and you guys will do Christmas together, or
Probably,
you'll go to her place, or
we would normally do. Yeah, it's interesting. That's all kind of morphed a little bit. I mean, my parents, we would do part of either Christmas or Christmas Eve with them, but it wasn't ever like this set exact thing. I'm not sure exactly what my mom will want to do now. Sometimes she wants to be part of the celebration. Sometimes she kind of wants to have her own time with us outside of it.
Sure.
We've got the extended family. A new a white elephant Christmas Eve thing has been going on with my brother and sister-in-law and their neighbors that we've done the last few years.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's funny and fun to do. So I think that is probably going to happen again this year. That seems like it's sort of becoming a thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, but it's not like every year it's this, and this, and we make the same cookies, and it's not like that. It's kind of just got a little more elasticity to it. And,
okay.
We do some gifts, but not a ton. Just a few.
Yeah. So. That's cool.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Well,
you were saying so. You seem a little more
standardized kind of guy.
Your whole life, everything, your church, everything is. We do these 4 weeks. We do the monastic rhythms, right?
Yes.
You're a little more
standardized and
standardized.
rigid.
Yeah, you're like rigid, conservative, and standardized.
Yes, I am.
Those are the words.
Those are the words you would use for me. Yeah, I mean, it's been this year, like you. It's interesting because Sue's mom passed away.
Oh yeah.
This year. Man, it's not been long.
Here, take a photo of me. We got to do something.
Oh yeah, I got to take a photo of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you lost a mom.
Yeah, we lost a mom. Hey, come on in here. Have a seat.
Have a seat. Join the podcast. We
Here.
got another chair.
Let me.
The fireman's here.
The fireman's here. We
How long is this podcast?
It's gonna be really long. No, it's not that long.
No?
It's never long. Let's see here.
This is a nice change in it. Everyone's enjoying this as they listen. I was gonna see if I could steal Eric's office or somewhere. Oh. Yeah, that's frustrating.
Have a seat for a second. We're about to end the podcast, but you'll have to have a handheld mic.
Well, so the good news is there was a purpose to this chair.
See, look at that. So,
is this the other panel?
Yeah, this was the panel right here. You're on, Daniel. You won't hear yourself, but you're on recording. Yeah. We were just talking earlier about how unsafe our church was, and I assured him that we have a fireman with us, so we don't have to worry. And then you showed up.
Churches in the world, a candlelight service with this furniture is the worst idea. I mean, though I'm really glad you do it. I'm sure it's very sweet.
Was it all the petroleum products in the furniture that?
There's probably a lot of petroleum products.
Okay. Wicker. I hear you.
Yeah, you guys have a lot more wicker than the standard church.
Okay. We'll do a little repeat of stop, drop, and roll before next candlelight service.
Oh, that's true. Maybe we should just do that as a church, as a practice.
Exactly.
And to know our exits and how to do that. My son asked why we don't have fire drills at the church.
It's a good question.
Maybe we should have a fire drill sometime.
Aren't your exit doors like bolted shut?
Unlocked before the service.
Unlocked before the service.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, should we say bye now?
Yeah, well,
podcast and then...
It's good to have you on the podcast, Daniel.
This is your local fire safety expert.
Fire safety expert, landing the plane on this amazing podcast by giving us some great suggestions. So, anyway, Eric, good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, and we'll talk more next week.
Yeah.
This was a very mellow, fallow podcast.
Mellow, fallow podcast.